Um, all right. So what I'd like you to do, actually, I have another podcast that maybe we could look at, and then I'm going to have you do a little bit of a warm-up exercise to meet with each other. No, you know what? I'll do the warm-up exercise together first, and then we'll listen to that. Okay. I am going to share a document with you all, and I'm going to put you into groups briefly. Okay. I'm putting this into the chat. Okay, so this Google document I'm also going to post up on Canvas for us. This will be a way for us to kind of keep track of our brainstorms and any like activities that we do together. So let me pull that up. Okay, so in your groups, and each group can just take one box here, and don't worry, it'll expand as you type in. So I'd like you to introduce yourselves to each other and just here list out what has helped you get through 2020 so far. Okay. And when we look at kind of our syllabus a bit and the theme of the class, it's a lot about kind of us processing everything. So what has helped you? Maybe it's been a movie that you really love that you've watched and turned to, maybe a show that you really enjoy, a certain author or writer, some books that you have looked at, music that you enjoy, artwork, whatever it might be. Maybe for me, it's been baking bread. So if there is something like that that has helped you kind of cope, great, because I want us to kind of help each other think about ways that we can kind of get through this year. So list those here. If you have links, that would be actually really wonderful to include the links there so we can kind of look at those. And if there's a word or two of like description about what it is and why it was meaningful to you, that would be great. Okay, so let me put you in groups. So I'll give you guys 5 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to put you in groups of 3. I'll give you 5 minutes, and then you'll see the notice from me to come back, and then we'll kind of chat together. All right? Okay, so everybody's back. Great. So let's take a look at what you shared. Okay. I'll give you guys a couple more minutes to like add a bit, but so let's look here. So Sean, so you said playing with your dog, riding your bike. Yeah, exercising is a really good thing to do. Hanging out with your wife, watching Netflix. Anything in particular that you've been watching? What were you gonna say?
I said I think I watched pretty much everything there was to watch on Netflix
Kind of
since
running through.
March.
Yeah, there's been a lot to run through
Yeah.
since then. Okay, great. Um, and then Juliana, paint by numbers. Yeah, painting's been like a really great way to be expressive and kind of having like a framework for it, right? Paint by numbers, it's already kind of there. You get to fill it in, so it's kind of meditative. Hanging out with your roommates, going to the beach when there's not too many people there, right? And more online summer classes, baking, absolutely. Yes, it's been really helpful. Um, Ellie, also going to the beach with your dog, running while blasting music. Any particular music?
Just one that makes me just tune out everything, I guess. It's been pretty busy here in our beaches, so kind of to avoid people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's hard to like kind of, I want to go to the beach to get away from people, but everybody's there. So
Exactly. Super
yeah,
crowded.
yeah. Friends and then cooking. Good. Okay. Um, let's see. Sydney, also baking. Hey, we're all like, we could be a baking club here. Binge watching Avatar: The Last Airbender. Great. Marvel movies. Oh, so what do you feel like it's particularly about like the Marvel movies or Airbender that's been appealing right now?
I honestly think it's just because it kind of makes me feel like a little kid again. Like when you're in the movie, it's like superheroes. Oh my gosh! And for
Mm-hmm.
like a good like however long I watch the episodes or the movie, like a good 2 hours out of the day, you just kind of like forget everything that's going on and you just feel comfy.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why I feel like I've been gravitating to a bunch of stuff that I really liked growing up. So
Ah, yeah. Yeah, and you know, with the superheroes, it's kind of the feeling that somebody else has more power control than we do, and they can help us, right?
yeah.
Um, um, let's see. And then Sarah, FaceTime with loved ones, movie nights, yes. I don't know if any of you have been going to the drive-ins. There's been a lot of great drive-ins like lately. It's kind of fun. YouTube workout videos, yeah. Cleaning and re-cleaning every square inch of my house. Yes. So I don't know if a lot of you have felt like this kind of maybe monotony, or I don't know if it's comforting or if it's monotony of like doing chores over and over and just staring at everything and saying, oh, now I need to vacuum again. I need to do the laundry again. I need to cook again. It's kind of this like repetition. And some of the reading we're going to look at is going to talk about that a bit too. Shanae, coming back from California from New York to spend time with family, watching Boy Meets World. Oh, interesting. Weekly virtual happy hours with family. Yeah, so being able to use the virtual world to like connect, right? Connect with family. Good. Gabby, going on a lot of walks. Yes, getting out of the house. Good. If you guys can, please give yourself some time to like exercise and stretch every day because we're not like doing as much physical activity as we normally would, right? And we're watching Grey's Anatomy. Well, there's a lot to watch on Grey's Anatomy. How many seasons has it been on? Like 20? How many seasons? Gabby, do you know how many?
I don't know how many, but I know there's for sure 15. So I just know that, and when I first started watching it a long time ago, I never finished it, so I just rewatched it because there's so many. So I had something to do.
So, confession, like I used to watch that with the feminist club that I was in here when I was a student, when it was like way back in the day when Denny was on. Have you watched that episodes with Denny?
Yeah, I watched them.
Yeah, I don't know. Those are good. I haven't really watched much since then, but good classics. Um, Oscar, books, most specifically reading poetry, spending time with family, having barbecues. So Oscar, which books, which poetry authors or books have you been looking at?
Obviously, I've been reading this one because so long at times that it
Oh,
doesn't make sense.
Bukowski?
Yeah, it's like
Oh.
the first song I actually really enjoyed. And it's like the simple, like reading, but like not too vague or anything like that. Just like say like lessons. It's pretty cool.
Oh, okay. So I was trying to catch some of it, but yeah, so it sounds like you're finding like inspiration in that writing too, right? So I would like also recommend, if you haven't been doing that so far, but doing some writing of your own kind of based on what comes out of what you're reading, right? And I, you know, sometimes I'll be stuck and then I read something written by somebody else, like, and then all those like ideas come out, right? Great. Okay. And then Andrea, books, working out, FaceTiming, good. And then any particular books you've been reading?
Yeah, particularly a book named The House of Broken Angels, and then also reading some poetry by Jessica Salgado. You know, just a mixture of just like comfort books that are mainly fiction or, you know, poetry kind of takes your mind off of things for a while.
Mm. Yeah, and you know, there's a quote that I'm going to add to our Canvas page, but it's thinking about fiction as a way to really actually deal with the real world. Even though it may feel like it's an escape from the real world, it's kind of a way, I think, for us to kind of make sense of it and put it back together in a way that works for us, right? When the real world doesn't really work. Great. Okay, good. So let's see. I wanted us, I was going to get right into writing exercise because I want to do that and I don't want to worry about the syllabus, but I guess we should look at the syllabus together. Okay, let me bring that up. And I don't want you to worry about the service learning component of it. It's going to be fun and creative. It's not going to be stressful, okay? All right. So here's our syllabus, and this is on our Canvas page as well. Oh, and I did want to let you know too that if you have any friends who are interested in the class or looking for classes, we do have a little bit of room. So please have them email me, have them just sign up and join. I'd be happy to have them with us. Okay, so far, like the kind of theme for our class is Portrait of 2020, Documenting Transformation. I wasn't quite sure what to call this year. There were a lot of other names I wanted to call it, but this kind of seemed like it might encapsulate everything for us. So like I mentioned, our course is hybrid, so we will meet most Mondays, and then for a synchronous session on Zoom, and then the asynchronous sessions will be the Wednesday classes that you will need to complete on your own. As long as you complete that before our next Monday class, that's totally fine. But if you're like me, I like to kind of keep things on a schedule, and so I like to complete things like on the day I'm supposed to, but I know you all have a lot going on, so as long as you get it done before the next class is great. I mentioned my office hours to meet with me through Zoom and email me. We talked about our books. And then make sure you have something to write with. For those of you who've had me before, I'll have you do writing exercises in class. So either you can type it out or handwrite it in a journal notebook for yourself. Just as long as you have some way to kind of get everything down. And then we will have a lot of readings on Canvas and some videos and podcasts that we'll be listening to too. Okay. So to describe the class, And I'm not going to read everything in detail, just a couple things here. So social action writing has the ability to witness and process lived experience in ways that affect change. Yet they can also envision a different reality. By harnessing the power of the creative process, this class will focus their skill on examining the present moment. 2020 is a year in flux. So people's lives and livelihoods have been forever changed, and organizers have built momentum to address racism in policy and practice. As the pandemic reshapes society and communities grapple with injustice, writers are presented with a unique responsibility. So this class will use creative tools to examine this year as a unique moment in history. They'll capture the possibilities and particular challenges that 2020 presents, and in personal reflective writing, reimagining reality, and profiling individuals whom they interview. So social justice provides the impetus to write for a purpose. As service to the community, students will collaborate in teams to investigate a theme related to the impact of 2020. And this will be very broad. So whatever kind of theme, even if it's a really like conceptual theme, it's totally great with me. Whatever you as a team are interested in, I think you should go for, okay? And I'll help you kind of come up with ideas. Each team will produce an audio podcast that features their writing around the theme that they select. So we'll be doing a lot of writing this semester. You'll pick something that you feel is really strong, and then as a team, you'll record that and make a short podcast, okay? And then we'll choose how we want to share that at the end of the semester. So your work will interweave scholarship and creative practice to influence systemic change. The writing will include, but not be limited to, poetry, fiction, creative nonfiction, and visual representation. I do playwriting, so I'm going to sneak in playwriting wherever I can. Okay. And we're going to do this kind of writing and research with our community partners, meaning that like whatever theme you all pick, I will connect you with our community partners to find somebody, because they're identifying people for us who have been affected in some way by what's been going on this year, and in a way that you're kind of interested in. And then your group may be in teams, or one person will interview them and write a little profile of them to include in your podcast, okay? So this will be really interesting, thinking about, I mean, gosh, everybody's been affected in some way, right? So this could be really broad. So this will result in your service hours. So it's worked into the assignments I'm going to have you do. So it's not like you have to go and like log in hours with a community partner. You're going to do it through the writing that you're doing. Okay? Okay. So our community partners include the Monterey Peace and Justice Center, the Epicenter, Monterey County Free Libraries, and also I work with California Rural Legal Assistance, so they could be a possibility as well. So I mentioned the course being hybrid, synchronous and asynchronous. So it's really just, I want to make sure that you are doing the writing, even though you may have a lot of other things that are competing for your time. This is a special time for you to focus on writing. And so even if like a lot of the work is going to be independent, you owe it to yourself to write. Okay, so make sure that you're doing that writing. If any challenges come up, please let me know. In terms of communicating with me, email me and I will get back to you usually that day. If it's late in the evening, I may not get back to you till the next day, but don't worry, I will respond. And if there's anything that you need, please do reach out. In terms of our service learning outcomes, so we're looking at self and social awareness. So kind of thinking about how we work within these social cultural identities and how that kind of relates to power and privilege. Our service and social responsibility. So thinking about how the field has perpetuated or changed issues of justice, equity, looking also at engaging in responsive and reciprocal service. So through like the interviews and profiles that we're doing, you all will kind of be providing that service to the community. Oh, I don't know if I mentioned, sorry, it's hard to do this online. Some of you know I'm an oral historian. So my like main job is to go out and interview people about their life story. So I will equip you to do these interviews, and don't worry, they don't have to be super tough or extensive. This is just kind of getting a snapshot of what people are going through. And then action for systemic change. So when we create our podcasts and however we decide to share those, we will use that to kind of reach an audience that we decided is important to reach, okay? In terms of social action writing, we're looking at our creative writing craft, our social action writing skills, so writing for a purpose, our social action skills, so kind of using our analytical skills to think about what do I need to like put my efforts towards, right? Sustaining the writing practice, that process, that's a big thing for me, is just kind of creating kind of this rhythm in terms of your writing, that you have that space to let the writing come out, okay? With stress, it can be easy to kind of go in all these different directions, and I want to kind of provide at least some sort of focus space for you to get that writing done, and hopefully that you can keep it going for yourself. Interdisciplinary visual competency. Oh, so soon one of the early exercises we're going to do is I want you to take a photograph of something that you have noticed lately, or something that has impacted you lately. So it could be many things, right? Prior to the fires that were going on, I'd say, like, interestingly, like, birds have been a big thing. Like, I've noticed them a lot more than I had in the past. If you're somebody who's been impacted by the fires, you probably will have some interesting photographs to go along with that. But very much up to you. And then at the end, our presentation distribution of our writing. Okay, if you're a student who has any particular learning needs or an identified disability, please reach out to me. I want to make sure that you are supported and successful in the class. So, and just know that that's going to be confidential, but please do speak with me or send me an email. And academic support. So if at any point for this class or any other class you want some support from the Cooperative Learning Center, they are doing that virtually. So please reach out to them, and I will gladly give you extra credit for that. Wellness. Like I mentioned, I know stress is something that you're all dealing with. So please reach out to me, reach out to the university. We have like our basic needs support. We also have some emergency funds dealing with COVID and with the fires. So please know that like there is support out there. You just have to reach out for it, okay? And I can help connect you with them. Course expectations. So it's important for you to be in class. You guys are all here, so you know that. Attending the classes regularly and being on time. If you have any issues with connectivity, please let me know. It's not a problem if you just want to call in to the Zoom meetings. You can do that through the number on our link. That's totally acceptable. And just make sure to check your emails regularly. Classroom expectations. Oh, so I mean, we'll be dealing with a lot of like self-reflection. So a lot of people in class are going to have all individual experiences, different backgrounds. So we just want to make sure that we're respectful of people's experience. Their experience is their experience, right? So, and whatever people share in class should remain in class, right? We're not going out and spreading anybody's personal business anywhere. And in the service that you're doing, the people you're interviewing, they may have very different experiences from you. And so it's our job to kind of listen and take that in and be respectful of, you know, their individual experience as well. Academic integrity shouldn't be an issue here, but I hope the writing that you're doing is your own. But, you know, just make sure that if you are pulling from any outside sources, especially in your research, that you are citing that source and letting me know where you got it from. Technology skills. I think you guys can access all this. You're able to get on the Google Apps. If you have any issues getting on Canvas, let me know. Okay. Assignments. I'm sure you're wondering about this. Nothing to worry about. Okay. So 3 times during the semester, we're going to have some workshops. So each of those workshops will have a different theme. The ones I've thought of so far: imagining new realities, a self-portrait, and a 2020 portrait. Okay. The writing exercises that I have you do in each class will be building towards that. So save that writing, because then you will pick something in each set of weeks that you will use for that workshop. And we'll either post, so people will decide to share their work with the entire class to get verbal feedback, and everybody else will post theirs on Canvas to get some feedback from the class, okay? Your creative research assignment. So this is where you personally are picking an issue that you want to explore more in depth. So this has something to do with whatever has been going on this year that you are interested in, that you feel compelled to learn more about. And it'll illuminate some important component of that issue and use creative writing to reflect on it. So you do a little bit of research and do a creative writing piece to go along with that. Okay. If you want your creative piece to be something that's recorded, either audio or video, that's great too. Like if some of you like spoken word, totally do that. Okay. I'm not going to be strict here. Your personal portfolio. So at the end of the semester, the work that you have done during our workshops or any other writing exercises that you felt was really representative of you, we'll put that together in a portfolio that you can have to kind of reflect on what you've developed throughout the semester. And then our team podcast, right? So you'll be working in small groups to kind of pull your work together, pick a piece that you feel is really strong, and then create a profile of somebody. Here I've got 15 to 20 minutes. We can change that. So it needs to be 10 to 15 minutes, not a problem. We're going to listen to some examples throughout the semester and think about what works in those examples and what you want to do. I invite you to be really creative with this. So if any of you do any of you listen to podcasts very much? Some people, yeah, I see some nodding. So if you, let's see. Yes, great. So if there are any that you really enjoy, please send links to me because I can add those in, okay? I'm gonna be kind of flexible with what we do week to week to be responsive to what's going on, because who knows, it could always be different from each week. Let's see. Journals, I'll talk about that in a sec, but these are just responses to the pieces that we're reading, and you'll just kind of let me know that you've read the text, right? You're going to kind of summarize it and then give me some sort of response to my questions or a creative piece that you wrote in response to that, and then participation. Okay, and just letting you know, anything can change depending on our needs, so I'm not going to be super strict about this. I want to get us all through the semester together, so I am here to support you in that. Let me pull up then our journal guideline. Any questions while I'm doing that? Yeah, okay. Y'all look tired already. You okay? Yeah, okay. Hopefully this will pull up. Okay, so this is up on Canvas, and our guidelines for the journals. So when I have a journal listed up, and I'll show you the description, when I have it listed for something that I want you to watch or listen to or read, I want you to respond to it. Okay, so if you're somebody who likes to handwrite these, great. Handwrite your journal. It should be about a page. And you can just take a photograph of it and upload that here to Canvas so I can check you off. If you want to type it out, it should be about 300 to 500 words, so a couple paragraphs. If you want to video or audio record your response, that's great as well. So you could just upload a recording instead of writing something out. I'm very happy with that. So in your journals, there should be 2 sections. And if you number them, that would be great. So I know that you've done that when I'm checking it off. So you have section 1, which is your summary of the text. So this is just explaining what it was about. If somebody hasn't read it before, what they need to know from it, right? What happened in it, if there's an important quote, just something that like lets me know that you read it. Okay. And then in section 2, this is where you're responding to maybe a question that I posed for it. You could also maybe write a poem if you want to. Maybe it inspired you to write a creative piece. Maybe if you want to give a spoken word, or if you just kind of have a verbal reaction to it and you want to record that, totally awesome. Or if you're a visual artist and you want to draw something, paint something, that would be great as well, as long as it's responding to it in some way, okay? And if we look on our modules, I think I mentioned this. So for each first Zoom meeting in the week, you should click on the description. So it'll tell you what we're doing in class. My internet's connection's unstable, so if I kind of fuzz in and out, let me know. For the asynchronous class, I have some instructions for you to listen to kind of keep in mind as you read these pieces. These are short. And your journal. So like here, there's a journal response to the On Boredom chapter in the Mars book. So how would you connect the experience of the pandemic and shelter in place to a mission to Mars? Okay, so looking at what she wrote in that part. In your writing exercise, so that's something that you'll do on your own. I'm going to have you do one of them today, just as practice. So thinking about your relationship to writing. This piece that she wrote, that Zadie Smith wrote on Something to Do, is really interesting because she's kind of pulling back this whole veil of writing being this big, beautiful, mysterious thing. She's like, look, I got time and this is what I'm doing now, right? So I want you to kind of think about that. And then for the next week, what do I have so far? Oh, okay. So before class, we'll be reading Dreams of Mars, Dreams of Earth, really interesting chapter. And we'll be looking at a few things together. And then there's a little video that I'm going to have you watch for the next class. So, okay. Let me share something with you. I'm going to have us listen to something and do a writing exercise. But does anybody have any questions for me?
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to say I think it's really cool that of like all the ways you gave us to respond to the journals. Like that's really awesome. So
thank you. Yeah, and you know, actually, because I used to have, I'm sure some of you remember, I used to have everybody just write them out or like type them out. And Ibrahim Shelton was talking about, well, we need to like open up different ways for people to respond. And I'm like, well, this is a creative class. You guys should be creative. So do whatever like works for you, okay? As long as it's in response to the reading or the video. Okay, I want it to trigger something for you. And the journals, just and the writing exercises, just make sure you do those before the following class meeting, okay? And if I have anything listed like read before class, do before class, make sure to do it before class. All right. I'm going to share some audio. So let me see if I can get that to work. Okay. Okay. So this is kind of looking at all the ways that we kind of cope with what's going on, and then also how that might influence like the writing that we're doing, or maybe facilitate it or get in the way of it, right? I know for me, I've had to write very differently than how I normally did in the past. So let's just kind of take a listen here.
Welcome to WMFA, a podcast about why and how we write.
You guys can hear that? Yes? Okay.
I'm Courtney Ballastier. to WMFA, and if you are, welcome. These minisodes are usually brief meditations on an issue, often a psychological or emotional one that I'm facing in the work of writing. Before the events of the last few days, I was going to talk to you now about how I've been struggling with that model. How, though I love the way minisodes offer solace and community, I sometimes wonder if I'm doing us a disservice by focusing so much on what's wrong in the creative process, on where it's sticky, where it hurts, where it's hard. It's not that I want to stop examining the process, including the more difficult aspects, just that I want to leave room for everything else too. I'm already prone to anxiety and obsessing. I don't want to deepen those pathways toward negative thoughts until they're the only paths my mind can travel. Something I know I think about all the time as a person with anxiety is how easy it is to over-identify with the anxiety and how dangerous that can be to my actual sense of self. And then we entered a collective state of emergency. COVID-19 and quarantining became pretty much all I could think about. And then I realized that actually what I wanted to talk to you about now hasn't changed much at all. I am very lucky and very grateful to be able to work from home, to have good health insurance, to be young and healthy and able-bodied. What this ordeal has made clear to me, though, is how deep my lack-based thinking goes. How, despite all of those things, I am fundamentally afraid of never having enough. How I can look at my fully stocked pantry and fixate on the fact that I didn't buy an extra bag of rice. You see where I'm going with this, right? This is a moment when we are forced into stillness with everything, including our fears. But that means it can also be an excellent opportunity to learn how to take better care of ourselves and each other. And those are lessons that extend to our creative process. The first thing I want to say about that is, if you now find yourself at home with hours of time that could be spent writing, you do not have to write. I'm going to say that again. You do not have to write. If you want to, great. If it makes you feel good, do it. But if you're too scattered or distracted or unfocused, as I am, give yourself a pass. Our foundations are being stress tested right now. Tending to them is tending to your writing. We are all doing our best. That is an allowance I usually withhold from myself. I usually insist that my best be the best, the most perfect. But that is unrealistic, unreasonable, and at this moment, we are certainly not in a position to force ourselves into productive shapes. This is not a moment to withhold from ourselves. We do not have to create to comfort ourselves with creativity. Read, watch a movie, consider what you want to be what you need. I say this as the queen of carrot and stick pleasure management, of you can read the new Hilary Mantel when you finish your invoices and write your next chapter and solve the global climate crisis. Because that's another thing this experience has made clear to me, that I keep myself busy, a superficial 0.5% of my brain kind of busy, as a way of withholding what I actually want to be doing until I literally run out of time. So then, when I am less busy, as the world is right now, I spin out. Of course I do. I'm left with what I've been avoiding. I pull a tarot card daily, and today I got the Hanged Man. Here's the line from one of my tarot guides about that card. Constant activity keeps the ego busy, but by practicing patience, you are allowing other opportunities to unfold for you. We're all hanging in that hangman spot for the moment. It is sticky, and it hurts, and it's hard. But we can find space in it for more. We can read a book we love. We can check in on our elderly neighbors and bake a pie. We can donate to our community food bank and watch a whole season of reality television in an afternoon because it makes us laugh and that keeps us sane. We can use this moment if we are healthy and safe and secure and lucky enough to have all of those things, to get clear on what really feeds us and then to give it to ourselves with no strings attached. Then later, whenever we're ready, we can write. You'll find links to some of the things we talked about today at WMFApodcast.com. If you enjoyed this episode, leave.
Okay. So I know, like, if you're like me, you may have guilt about not being as productive as like you should be, right? When you're under stress, don't feel like you have to be achieving something, okay? If you find some things like we talked about, some of those strategies that you've been using to kind of de-stress, that's a good thing, okay? You don't need to feel guilty about that. And hopefully in leaning into those things, you can open up space at some point when you're ready to write. I know for myself, like I normally would write like in monologues, do playwriting, and lately that's been really challenging. And I feel like all I've been able to do is write kind of these short essays, almost like what Zadie Smith's been writing, just these kind of almost like diary-like entries about what's going on that day, because it feels like things change from day to day. So whatever works for you, and if that's different from what you normally have done, that's all right. Okay, so what I'd like us to do is if you could get something that you can write with, I'm going to have you do a little writing exercise for a few minutes. Let me share this so you can see this visual. Well, I guess I'll post it in the chat. Okay, so after listening to that little short podcast, I want you to kind of think about maybe if you've had a roadblock that has gotten in the way of your writing during 2020, like kind of write about that, right? What have you found to be challenging about writing in the moment? What do you turn to instead, right? And I know ironically I'm asking you to write about this. Or if you're somebody who has found this to be a really good time to write and you feel like you're writing much more than you did before. I think they said that Shakespeare wrote King Lear during like the plague, right? So that could be something too. So I just want you to kind of think about what your creative process has been lately. And you can write this in any genre you want. If you want to write a poem, if you want to write like a short little creative nonfiction piece, whatever you want to do is up to you. So I'll give you 5 to 7 minutes. So I just want you to kind of think about this and write, and then we'll kind of come back together. Okay, why don't you take another minute or two? Okay, so wherever you're at right now, why don't you stop? Don't worry, this doesn't have to be a really fancy polished piece. This is just you kind of getting down your ideas. So would somebody like to read what they wrote? Or share what you were reflecting on?
I'll read mine.
Okay.
All right. What has been getting in my way of writing? Maybe it's fear that anything I write will be shit. I want to write. My cousins who have degrees, I tell them to write a book, but why won't I? I guess what gets in my way of writing must be fear. Fear. Or maybe it's myself giving me numerous excuses as to why I'm not ready to write. Like, I haven't lived through anything worth writing, but even I don't believe that when I say it. Even I don't believe that when I say it. Laziness, comfortable with not writing, so why would I start? Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I have to admit that that was written really well. But I think that what you got at was really honesty about like worrying about things needing to be perfect and saying, I can't make it perfect, so I'm just not going to try, right? And it's like this fear of even starting because you're not sure where it's going to go, and then you have to finish it, and like, what do I do, right? And not like, and sometimes when I had started writing, I didn't want to go back and re-edit things later. You know, I was just like, I wrote it and that's it, and I don't need to look at it. Like, it's perfect the way it is, right? But like, that's a challenge, and I think we can be afraid of that challenge of going back and perfecting it. But I think that's a really great reflection. Okay. Would somebody else like to share?
I can go. Writing has never come easy to me. I tend to overthink and my mind is overwhelmed with too many ideas rushing in at once. Thank you, ADD. Procrastination and deadlines become my best friends when I tend to write the best. 2020 has become a roller coaster of emotions. I started eager to stay productive, but quickly go into episodes of loneliness and depression. If I wasn't much of a free writer before, this pandemic has not helped encourage me to start. Music's always been my go-to for stress and relaxation. Sometimes all I need is a good song to motivate me. I've tried my hand at songwriting, but lack of confidence in my skill has always gotten in the way.
Oh, well, you know, like poetry and songwriting are very similar, right? They use very similar skills. So yeah, it's kind of a similar thing, right? Needing to give yourself the permission to try it out, and not expecting that it's going to be perfect. But this could be a really great chance this semester to challenge yourself to do some songwriting. You know, that could be a really great way to add to the podcast that you're going to do. I'm not saying you have to sing it or anything, but think about it, right? And spoken word poetry and songs are very similar. Great. Okay. Anybody else would like to share anything that they wrote? Sean?
Sure. My main project has been on hold for years now. Business got in the way. Then family took over, and now school. Without the structure of school and the prompts of my professors, I don't write. I find anything else to do then write. I draw for work, I watch television, I cook, I clean, I walk the dog, I commute to work, but I do not write. I am grateful for school because now I must write. I must proofread and rewrite and hopefully get better, more proficient, more eloquent, or more importantly, more concise. Thankfully now I must write.
Wow, you guys have written some really great things so far. Yeah, so like that discipline of having to write for school. When I was finishing my MFA program, I was very nervous about that. Like, what am I going to do that I don't have the structure, right? So I'm hoping that in this class that it can build some practice in you, that you feel confident that you can give yourself that time and say, okay, now I'm going to set aside time to write, or even steal away time for yourself. Like, just have something ready to write at any point. And like all these other responsibilities can definitely get in the way. And it's like, I got to do all this other stuff. I got to do laundry. I don't have time. Oh, I did want to mention this, and I'll try to remember to put this on Canvas. When we get to like our meeting next week and we read the dreams section, I don't know, have any of you been having really strange dreams? Yeah, like really abnormal, different dreams, right? And sometimes it's hard to tell, like, did that really happen? Was I dreaming that? Dream about going somewhere and forgetting a mask, or not realizing that people aren't wearing their masks and then freaking out about it and stuff. So I would recommend keeping a dream journal. So keep something near you that you can write down what you dreamed, because if you don't write it down right away, you will forget it. Or even if it's taking notes on your phone, okay? Just make sure that you get into that kind of habit of writing down these dreams, because sometimes like they'll stick with you and you're like, ah, that was just such a strange experience that I had. Those can be really interesting stories, right? Okay, so where am I at here? Yeah, so great. Oh, I accidentally claimed my own instructions. So for Wednesday's class, listen to the instructions that I put on there, read something to do your writing exercise with that, and then read the PDF that I added for On Boredom. If you don't have your books yet, I added the PDFs for the early readings just in case. And then for the following class, I'm kind of clicking through it here. Read Dreams of Mars and Dreams of Earth, which I have posted a PDF of as well. Okay. And if you have any questions along the way, feel free to email me or to join any of my office hours. And if you have friends who want to join the class, they're welcome. Okay. So just tell them to join. All right. I look forward to working with you. Any questions before we go? Okay, well, hang in there. You made it through your first day. Hopefully you don't have any other classes after this, but I will see you all soon. Okay? Bye. Bye, everybody. Bye. Nice to see you all again, for those of you I've seen before.